Nobody wants to die, right? But not nobody wants to be a slave, right? And we have an expression in Ukrainian. I will say that in Ukrainian, and then you can translate it. Рабів до раю не пускають.
Привіт! Я Іванка Маніліч, архітектор із Західної України, і ви слухаєте Vans Grow Podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm glad you're here. Today we're doing a special update. I spent a lot of yesterday evening looking through the news reports and trying to discern what's really going on in the Ukraine. I noticed that Western media would only show very small clips of what Putin was saying in his perspective, and you would hear vague assessments of how many people were killed, how is the war going, and very rarely did you see a regular person talking. I've always thought that the internet would have wildly opened up our ability to stave off a war. You could contact the people living in a war zone and you could say, what is it that you want? What is it that's going on around you? But when the Iraq war happened, that just never materialized. And in fact, what we saw were there were a lot of people that spoke their own language and lived within their own culture talking about these things, but you didn't see cross-border. Well, in this particular situation, I happen to be fortunate because the executive producer, Ben Anderson, is well connected in the Ukrainian world and in fact is studying the Ukrainian language. And so yesterday when we started saying, hey, maybe we should interview somebody from over there, he was able to go to his network and find a really interesting young guy that has graduated from college, has hobbies that include traveling and hiking and orienteering up in the mountains of Romania, but he lives and works in Ukraine with his family. And so we got Valentin Manher on the podcast, and we just asked him questions that a guy that's living in a new war zone could help us to understand what is he seeing, what are the Ukrainians really feeling, so that way we could get past what mainstream media wants us to hear and hear it from a citizen. We're going to maybe do some more of these as the world unfolds. You know, we don't like to go into special coverage because we want to just be up the graph focusing on long-term issues, but because this has such a large impact, not just on the lives of Ukrainians and Europeans, but ultimately has a potential big impact on the entire world for the rest of history, this is worth watching. So if you have ideas on special guests that we should interview, if you know a Russian, if you know other people in the Eastern European area that have been affected by this, know that we're very open to interviewing them and interested in giving them a chance to explain what the world looks like from their perspective. You will notice very quickly that Valentin is a sweet guy who is very intelligent, and we're really glad that he came on to discuss his perspective. So without further ado, let's head into this interview with Valentin Manher. Valentin Manher, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, these are unusual circumstances. We just got introduced a few moments ago, but you are actually living in Ukraine, which has been invaded by Russia, depending on what your perspective is. Why don't you just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what's going on where you are right now?
Okay, so I'm Ukrainian. I born here in the Western Ukraine. I'm 27 years old. I'm graduated from university like 3 years ago. My degree is like geodesy, cartography, and land management. But now I chose other things. I'm teaching, I'm a tutor actually, but I'm teaching Ukrainian language and Russian, like on one of the famous platform for professional teachers and tutors. So I meet a lot of people like for the last 2 years, like of my experience. And in the past I did a lot of hobbies like orienteering, hiking, and once hitchhiking. So I travel a bit in Europe. Well, that's a bit for me, a little bit about me. Yeah.
So where are you living right now?
I'm living in Western Ukraine. this town, or we are saying city, around like it's called Chernivtsi. It's near to Romanian border, so it's so close to the. It's on the west. It's Western Ukraine. Right.
And so where you're at, have you heard explosions and seen soldiers and things like this?
Fortunately not, but a lot of like my friends and people to whom I know, like who are lived in Kyiv, they moved from there. So one of my friends from university moved from Kyiv. He saw the Russian, aircraft. No, it's like planes.
Aircraft, that's right. Yeah.
Aircraft. He saw the aircraft, and like at the first time he saw that it's Ukrainian, but then he noted that it's Russian, and they like put the bomb in the on the north, like in the Kyiv region. So and he decided at the time to move from Kyiv to the western Ukraine, like around 400 kilometers from Kyiv. Well, for now we have a lot of refugees from other parts of Ukraine, from the north, from east. I don't even know from where people are like running, like, and people who want to escape this war, like families with children. And in my hometown, a lot of people trying to, like, a lot of volunteers try to help how they can, like bring some food, mats, the thing that you can cover when it's
Like,
cold.
okay. Well, so let's kind of start with what is your interpretation of what is happening right now? Were you
My
surprised?
interpretation is it's just so at first I didn't expect that. I thought that war will be continue on the eastern Ukraine, but I was really surprised of that. And this like intervention, Russia attacked like sovereign country in this, like in the Central Europe. Like if we compare Ukrainian with Russia, so we have a lot of benefits, like democracy, like democratic elections, a lot of free. We can go to the protests, and the police will not capture us. And based on all of those things and Putin ambition, like we have 8 years of war on the eastern Ukraine and occupied Crimea. Everybody know about it, about that. And we didn't expect that Russia for a few months escalate those things, like collected troops around the Ukrainian border. And it's like it's a horrible things what's happening now. So I can imagine in 21st centuries to have a war in the big countries with a huge population. That's one of the big the big countries in the world, like. And this, I can say this word, you can like edit that, like he's scumbag. He's a fucking scumbag.
What do you think he wants?
He wants to like to invite Ukraine and to recover like Soviet Union. That's his ambition. And he's saying that Ukrainian it's not a country, it's just the part of the Russia, but it isn't true. It's totally isn't true. So everything what's happened, like everything starts from here, like the Kyiv Rus. It's everything begin from the Kyiv, and like a lot of kingdoms, let's call them, like 1,000 years ago. And
yeah, I've been watching. I've been watching a lot of videos about like kind of the history, just trying to take a crash course. And when people look at the history of Russia, many of them say, actually, if you go back to like 900 AD, Kiev was its own capital and was actually much more powerful than Moscow, and was actually the cradle of this kind of civilization.
There wasn't Moscow. There was nothing. Kyiv just the beginning. And based on the history, this were not just start like 8 years ago. It started like for many centuries ago, when the Russian Empire like invaded like some part of Ukraine and like forbid the Ukrainian language. We have like terrible history when the Russia like tried to simplify Ukrainian language and make it like closer to the Russian.
So you actually teach both Ukrainian and Russian. I've heard people say, they're basically the same language. Do you agree with that?
No, I'm disagree. So I will give you an example. So do you know how what the language is like Spanish or Italian or French Italian? Like based on the vocabulary, these Latin languages a bit closer than Ukrainian with Russian. So Ukrainian closer with Polish language and with Belarusian, which now is like almost non-speaking in Belarus. So 62% of similarity. That's a different, 62% of similarity, and we have like grammar similar, but a lot of vocabulary completely different.
And if one could read Ukrainian, say, would they be able to read Russian?
One who read Ukrainian will be, so everybody in Ukraine understands Russian language. Yeah, it's opposite. Let's say that everybody who read Russian in Russia, if they will able to read Ukrainian language, they don't understand Ukrainian if I'm talking so fast and I'm using a lot of like different kind of synonyms.
So you're a young man, and this is a war going on that may impact your future. What? How do you think this is going to play out? How are you preparing yourself?
Well, for now, I don't have a military experience or something like that. But we have a contract army, a lot of professional soldiers, but we also have like territorial defense. And if they will call me, so if the government would say that I should do something for that, so then I should. For now, I'm here in Ukraine, so. Yeah.
And what is the situation with the fighting? I mean, I've definitely seen photography and video from it, but I can't understand any of it. So as I watch a plane go over, as I watch a tank, I just have to trust that they say, oh, this is a Russian tank as opposed to a Ukrainian tank. What is actually going on as far as like the violence?
Well, Russia attacks from the south, from the Crimea Peninsula, from the north, from the Belarusian actually territory. They entered to Belarusian and they attacked Kyiv from Belarusian and Russian territory. And the Ukrainian like army pretty strong, and they trying to defend the capital at first, and on a lot of other directions. So they there is the Russian lost like 7 aircraft, 6 helicopter. I checked the information on the local like resources, and almost I heard the last news I heard almost 1,000 soldiers. Yeah, and they prepare. I heard the news that the Russian prepare like 4,500 packages for their soldiers, like for the diet, like soldiers who died. And a lot of Ukrainian military like capture, like they catch the Russian soldiers after. Well, they catch them and they film and ask them, where are you from? What are you doing here? And so on. Then that was going on. And now it's Kyiv. Well, I don't know a lot of specific vocabulary to explain some small precise things, what is going on. So if you have any question, you can like ask me that again if I didn't mention something.
So one of the things that I found interesting was I read Putin's the transcript of his speech after he had begun the invasion of the Ukraine. And at one point, he refers to getting rid of neo-Nazis and people that have been propped up by the U.S. government. To me, this is an almost like, I can't understand what any of this means. To me, that's like crazy talk. What is the purpose of what he's saying, and how do you interpret it?
It's like totally propaganda. It's totally untrue what he is saying. The people who watching like BBC News, Deutsche Welle, German news, or other like famous like New York Times or even Ukrainian news, they don't believe. That's a lot of things that he is saying. I think he's saying like it's like just for propaganda. There is no just people, Ukrainians and Ukrainian army. They're trying to defend the country. That's it. There's no any nationalists and so on. It's totally like untrue. It's totally like that is bullshit.
So who are these
saying.
people? Who are these people that he's claiming have declared independence from the Ukraine and that he's going in to like liberate or support their, I watched him doing a talk where he had some guy stand up at a podium and he said, "Do you support the sovereignty of these nations that have broken away from the Ukraine?" And the guy says, "Yes, I do." What is he even talking about there?
Well, this man who answered to Putin and scares them, it seemed that he is scary Putin and agree with him by all of his questions, right?
Right.
This man. So I don't know about him. I know nothing about him, but a lot of them, they just scary. The Putin, and he's crazy. His purpose that's invites invite the country and show the whole world that this power.
I guess maybe shaped the question another way would be, we're being told that there are separatists inside of the Ukraine that invited the Russians in. Is that true? Are there people that wanted Russia to come in?
I think there is probably a couple percent who wanted to Russia invite, like probably not more than 5%. It's not a majority, like 70 or 80%. They don't want this imperialism, this Soviet Union regime, like here in Ukraine. It's just about this like separatists. It's just a propaganda that they are once independent and so on.
And what do you think Putin is going to do? Do you think he's going to try and annex all of the Ukraine into Russia, and then you'll be considered a Russian in the future?
No, don't say that anymore. Nobody will not consider as a Russian. Yeah, because it's he would like to. He would like to invade the half of the Europe, how it was in the past, in the last century. If you learn the geography, pardon me, if you learn the history, what was in the last century. Now he's like Hitler. He's a Hitler who tried to like annex the part of the sovereign country, as Hitler did with Austria.
What is your interpretation of the fact that when the Ukraine was attacked by Russia, that the U.S. didn't drop paratroopers in, or that NATO didn't contribute? Were you expecting that other countries would immediately come to your aid?
Well, that's good, and it's perfect. That's many countries, as like UK, United States, and NATO. They help a lot by those like javelins and others like military equipment. That what they are sending that before that, they prepare to that, and I expect that the other country who now like stop this system SWIFT. I don't know a lot about this system, but it will completely like that will be good for defense Ukraine. to make like Putin like more. That's what I expect. I think they well, a lot of Ukrainians thinking why they are not doing those hard sanction. We're not expecting like some troops from NATO. We're expecting the hard sanction to the Russia, and probably lend-lease. I don't know a lot about that, but I heard it's something related with like unlimited like support with the equipment, with some like Patreon and so on. I don't know a lot about that, but it's one the Ukrainian last president Poroshenko talked about it. So lend-lease, if I'm not wrong.
It's an interesting thing. So I actually work on a board of a small bank in the United States. And I was surprised when they did a bunch of banking sanctions. We're going to freeze the assets. So if your money is already in our banks, you'll go to log in if you're from Russia and you just won't be able to get access to it. But the SWIFT system is the ability for a company that's making a large sale to be able to basically confirm that the person they're about to wire money to agrees, yes, I'm the person you say that you think it is, and that will confirm receipt that this money has been sent. And so it's a payment system, but it's more of a communication system. And when they didn't take that down, it meant that Russia could still participate in the economy and the sale of things like fuel to Germany, which is an interesting thing because the Germans might really be upset that Russia is invading the Ukraine, but not so upset as to risk their ability to buy gas from Russia, is my interpretation of it.
Yeah, because the Russian, they really scary about if this situation will touch to each person in Russia, if the rubble will like fall, and they will not able to like buy some simple things, and they will go on the street and do some protest, because like just in this way they can understand what is going on, because there is a huge propaganda. Some like smart people who are not watching like those channel, like Central Russian channel, they are really sorry. They are crying, and but there is not a lot of people.
So how would you rate how your government has responded to Russia being invaded? Were they prepared in the ways that they should have been, and how are they reacting now?
I think they reacting pretty well. So I don't want to judge the government. They are doing what they can, and it's the best thing. So we like everybody should do something, not just the government, volunteer, and all of the nation, all of Ukrainians. So I'm not going to judge them. They are doing well. They prepare a lot of things. They accept the laws that people can defend themselves, like defense, like territorial defense. So yeah.
So as you're looking at the way Russia has invaded, have they been rounding up civilians? Are civilians worried about being caught in this whole situation, or is it more soldiers fighting soldiers?
At the beginning, yes, but they shot. Yeah, now I heard that. No, on the internet there is a photograph by one of the photographer, that man like standing on his like knees and crying on the diet, like civilian, and crying, and his car like destroyed, and like everything around him destroyed. And in Kyiv they like put the bombs on the civilian, like on the building. Now they don't care. They're trying to destroy like infrastructure, like fight with the army, and put the bombs to the civilian. They're doing what they want. They want to destroy everything. They want to scare. At first, they want to scare, and they want us to panic in this situation.
It seems like you have strong resolve. Do you have plans for what you're going to do? Are you going to stay put? Are you going to go seek family out or try and get to where friends are?
Well, as I said before, we will try to help like refugees. Probably we can donate blood. That what my friend did yesterday. One of them did that. We can do that. Donate blood, help refugees, and people who want to leave, who are scary, like they can leave. But the man from young 18 years old to the 16, they can't leave country now, based on this. I don't know how to call this time when the government did this laws.
Is that kind of a draft, like where they're bringing people into the army that maybe didn't originally sign up, but now we need you, so we're gonna they call it conscription, where they bring you into the military?
Yeah, that's well, I didn't get the question really. Can you please say it again?
Well, do you feel like the government is going to conscript young men into the military? No. Right?
It's opposite. The people, not the young men, but the people who had experience like 30 years, 40 years, who been already experienced by war or just military like servant. They just come to this like military department, and they're staying on the line waiting for the command what they will do. The people don't the government don't need to like catch people and like force them to the military. For now, we're hoping the professional army, not the huge amount of people, but less amount professional army will defend the country, but other will like help them from the inside, doing a lot of different stuff. We're not talking about to do like those things like, well, I'm stuck.
It's okay. You're doing great, man. This is fascinating to me, and I have to say, it's been very frustrating as a person that thinks like, oh, well, we have the internet. I can get any information about what's going on that I want. And what I find is that in the American news, or at least in the English speaking news, that it's so vague as to be difficult to know what's really going on. So they'll say there are a lot of casualties instead of there's 10 casualties or there's 10,000, right? But if you just say a lot, people in their minds just have to imagine whatever that is. And so it's very difficult. It's a fuzzy view of what's actually happening there.
Well, to the like usual local or like American, or like doing his job and back to home, and they are trying to understand what is going on. Like simply, a lot of people on the street, they are following the news unstop, unlimited. I think it's like you need to, for a few hours, to leave the phone and doing your job and follow the news, follow the commands, but still continue living the life you lived before. That's hard to do. I'm a Ukrainian tutor, and it's like not video. It isn't video editing, so you need to communicate with people, but it was hard. A lot of them who learn Ukrainian there, or Ukrainians like from diaspora, if you know this word.
Yeah, there are people that have left the country and now they're trying to continue in their Ukrainian so they can stay connected with the culture.
Yeah, and I impress a lot that a lot of like foreigners learn Ukrainian, so it's a good example for even for Ukrainian. So I'm continuing answering your question. Now you can see. I didn't see that, but a lot of people who joined to territorial defense in uniform. a lot of refugees. So I didn't see them, but I think tomorrow I will, because I can't stay. I was shocked. My mom called me at the early morning, and he just like woke me up by call, and I pick up the phone and answer. Why you call me? It's like so early. She told me you didn't see what is going on. Like Russia invaded the Kherson, the city on the north of Crimea, and I was shocked a lot. I didn't. So I think he will not. I think he just scared the people, but he's yeah. And what else? At first, they put the bombs to this like strategical like airports, where is some Ukrainian base and weapon. They put the bomb there, but the Ukrainian, how do you say? Oh, give me a second. It's a good word. I'll just look for this word. Okay. Intelligence.
Yeah, so it's like a knowledge of the other side. What are they doing? What are they thinking about? That kind of thing. Yes.
Yeah, they prepared to that. They was ready. Yeah. And
what message do you think the world should take away from this? Do you think that Putin? So one of the things that you hear in the U.S. is that if Putin could, he would march straight from the Ukraine into Poland, and continue on to try and grab more land. Do you think that's a possibility?
Everything is possible, right? Like to be the like optimist and to understand really what is going on. It's hard to do. It's pretty hard to do because Ukrainian army isn't small isn't small army at the beginning, and experienced by war for 8 years and prepared. So it's hard, but the United, I mean, European Union countries like Australia, USA, and other democratical countries, they should respond and like by sanction, by support to Ukraine anyway, because it's touched to everybody, even to you.
So you're saying you believe that people around the world should be really supporting the sanctions, anything they can do to get Russia to back down, because if you don't get them to back down, then this will continue to impact people even not living in the Ukraine.
Yeah, especially people in Poland, in Romania, and Baltic countries, because they are small one, and so on. Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk about the fact that if the Ukraine had been a part of NATO, then that would have been one of those triggering events where you attack one, you attack us all. Why was Ukraine not a member of NATO if that would have, preserved them in a situation like this?
Well, Ukraine on the NATO, good question. So we are 30 years independent country, right? But anyway, the politics and all the politics before, they didn't do that. Probably the nation, the people before, we had the first revolution like in 2004, when the pro-Russian like president, they like falsificate, I don't know if it's the right word,
Falsified?
Like, falsified election, and we have the first revolution, and from that time people like the Ukrainians show that we're not like a Russia, we're not like a Russian. But we did what we did. So it would be great to join to the NATO, I think. As a Romania, and I don't know which year, in 1997 or in 2000s. But before this time, we don't even we wasn't we were not ready to that. At the time when the Romania and Poland and other Baltic countries joined to that, they did like their best, good political reforms. Based on that, they were able to participate and join to the NATO. But we are not, unfortunately, as Georgia, as Moldova, you know, those countries.
So let's change gears. Instead of talking about the big grand policy of this, but let's talk about your experience of this. If you don't mind, what are you feeling? Are you scared right now? Do you worry for your life or the life of your family?
More or less. Of course, they have like things. So nobody wants to die, right? But nobody wants to be a slave, right? And we have an expression in Ukrainian. I will say that in Ukrainian, and then you can translate it. Рабів до раю не пускають. So I can translate it as the slaves can be in heaven, right?
So what about the rest of your family? Are they making moves? Do you live near your family right now? Or are they in other parts of the country?
Yeah, I'm with my family for now, but we are thinking, so I can go somewhere like out of the country, but my family, they can. So like my mom, my younger brother, my sister, and my wife. So they can move, but there is a lot of lines to the Romanian-Poland border. I have a lot of students around the Europe. We can help my family, have some friends in Europe who can help them. But we have like a property, you know, we have like houses and everything here. Like my parents build that for years. To leave that now and escape from the country where you lived a lot of years. People get used to live here. So a lot of people, like my wife's colleagues, they moved to the neighbor country, European Union country, Romania. Well, we're thinking, we're trying to agree what we will do. Nobody knows what is going on in Putin's head.
When the United States was attacked on September 11th, all of a sudden I would look around at people and they weren't just classmates or strangers. All of a sudden we were Americans that felt connected. Do you feel that way with other Ukrainians now that you're facing war together?
Of course. And the question, how are you? No, the question was like very spread sharing around like around us, around your friends. The question, how are you? Which actually mean I love you. We can interpret that because everybody like see each other, and everybody, the people with whom you didn't talk for a long time, they calling to you, they asking how are you from the Ukraine, and everybody look united. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, is there anything that you want people outside of Ukraine to know about what's going on?
I think they know what's going on, but that's a pretty important. That's like on the first step to the Third World War, and I think the countries, European Union countries, some of them really careful that they don't want to like to some set they really care, I think, because of that. And I want to tell them, if they will like ignore the thing that is going on here in Ukraine, now it's war behind their doors. So that's an important thing, to be united, to speak with the people, to ask the question, to support how they wants to do, like go to the like protest and force somehow the government to help. And because because it's a nation, it's like in democracy countries, like people is one of the important and I would recommend people, I would invite them, and I would really want them to go like to the like some government building and forced to do like more hard things, the best they can do. Well, many of my students ask me and support me and give me an address that I can move to there. I So I'm just saying thank you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And a lot of them scary about that. Well,
Well,
that's
Valentin Manher,
yeah.
I cannot even imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes, but I can say most of the time we imagine that the internet connects us with people, but we overlook it. But I'm so grateful that you were connected with me through the executive producer, Ben Anderson, and you were willing to do this. And please know that anytime something goes on, if you want to connect with our audience, I would gladly have you on again to discuss. So be safe out there and know you have a microphone here with us.
Cool. Thanks a lot.